Welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, man. Got to spend the weekend with my boy Zoo and our other buddy Eric in NYC this weekend, and got to
New
witness
York.
Boston losing, man. So, yeah, it was a good weekend. Beautiful weather out there in the Big Apple, and then some hell of an NBA, man. Those Game 6 and 7 of that Eastern Conference Finals, maybe not a Game 7, but Game 6, that was a hell of a fourth quarter. Zoo and I had a little live bet going, and we were both sweating it out for, honestly, that whole fourth quarter was just back and forth. Boston just kind of blowing it there at the end, but Derek White, once again, the only guy that showed up when they needed it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Good seeing you in person, NYC, man. And got to give you congrats on that Miami Heat's future pick of the Eastern Conference Champions pick. That was a ballsy pick, man.
Thank
that
you,
was
sir.
a very ballsy pick. Obviously, the Knicks, yeah, okay, that's barbecue chicken. Cute story, whatever. But the Celtics, man, I definitely had the Celtics over the Miami Heat this year. But, man, Himmy Butler, man. and the second best player ain't Bam Adebayo, man. It's C-Mart, man. C-Mart money, man. Caleb Martin, man. Showing out, man. Ain't Kevin Love, ain't Bam Adebayo, man. Ain't any of those dudes. It's Caleb Martin has been balling out. If you guys didn't see, he got a lot of votes of winning Eastern Conference champion player, like MVP. He was only one vote behind Jimmy Butler, which is incredible for an undrafted player, man, for a guy that was off the bench, who was a guy that was not even in the rotation last year. He was on last year in Game 7. He was on that DNP, man, the NIP, man, coach's decision, man. Like, the dude wasn't even in the rotation. And you see this year, man, being a vital role, man, hitting over 25 points, man, 26 points, and 10 big rebounds. So he balled out. So shout out to Miami Heat for getting it done.
Yeah, man. I was, watching Game 6. I was out. Saw the, tip in. And then when I saw that, the buzzer didn't sound before he got it up, Derek White, that is, I was just like, man, Miami's just dead to rights. Because that type of emotional letdown in any type of sport where you just lose, especially when you're doing a best of 7, like, even though you know it's not over, in that moment, it's just, I know all your emotions are probably coming to you. So, salute to the Miami Heat for getting off the mat and really making the Game 7 just not competitive. And that's where we're going to start, man. Just, this whole series, like I say, we recorded last, I think, Monday or Tuesday, and it's just a roller coaster of events that happened in this series. Miami prevailed and made it to the NBA Finals, but I kind of wanted to go back and just talk about the series. And Zoo, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Yeah, for me, man, last time we spoke, man, it was 3-0, man. We're talking about breaking. We were talking about breaking up the Boston Celtics, man. We're not thinking about trading Jaylen Brown. That's where the topics were right now, because it looked like it was gonna be a sweep or maybe in 5. But like what they did, man, they almost made history. Like, we got to give props to this team for almost making history, because coming back to tie it up, man, that is mad impressive, especially mentality wise. Because if you're down 3-0, in the back of your head, you're like, it's never been done in NBA history. Like, it's like 0 and 150 plus. So look at all the scenarios, man. Are you going to be that outlier? Are you going to be able to make history with a roster with so much drama in the beginning of the year, man? So like what they did, they blew them out 2 games. Like 2 of those games, absolute massacre. And one of them was at Miami. So it was not just at home. They were at Miami and just whooped them. Those 2 games weren't even competitive. And then obviously we had the D White game where that dude made an all-time play, man. So that was an all-time play, that all-time tip in. Like, that was probably the best playoff game this year. That fourth quarter was intense.
Absolutely.
Back and forth, man. Derek White, Jimmy Butler hitting big threes, Jason Tatum, man. Like Duncan Robinson bricking some open threes, man. So that game had it all. All the drama, man, and the way it ended, Jimmy Butler hitting all the free throws to take the lead, thinking he got it in the bag. They were legit like one possession away from advancing to the NBA Finals in Game 6. And then D White comes and saved the day, even though that Marcus Smart 3 was halfway down. I got to give him props to that,
man. Almost hit it.
He almost hit it, man. Like the game plan of Eric Spoelstra, double team Jason Tatum, man. Boom. Yep. Marcus Smart, he's like, okay, I got to get the ball. Chucks it up, man. Max Strus was off the double team, so it's hard for him to get back to the play. So it was just a play design. And D White, get a lucky bounce. Boom. He was there, cashed in the lucky bounce, and got it in, man. So 0.2 seconds, man. That game was incredible, but man, oh, man. closing the deal in Game 7, though, coming back from that heartbreak, man, that is some mentality, man. Because I would be freaking defeated. Just think about you were 0.2 seconds away from advancing to the NBA Finals. That was some Miami Heat, San Antonio Spurs, Ray Allen shit, man. Like they were getting the trophy out. They probably Adam Silver probably getting ready to get out that Eastern Conference trophy out for Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, man. Just waiting right there. But man, oh man, I'm glad the Celtics made the series a lot more interesting than it was because we already had a sweep over in the West. Like there were competitive games, but it was still a 4-0 sweep. Like this series, it was close to being another sweep, but man, oh man, shout out to the Celtics for making this series compelling. Some great basketball for the NBA Finals because it would have been a long week of no NBA if it was a 4-0 sweep.
Yeah, it would, yeah. Because we know how they kind of already have the final schedule set, man. So it's just like you're just kind of waiting, and then the teams, they could, if 2 4-0 sweeps, you're like, oh, they get more rest. Yeah, but they could also get a little rusty too in that time off period. So it obviously does help the Nuggets. We've seen Jamal Murray have some injuries in years past, right? So I'm sure him having a little bit of rest period is good. Joker, he's going to be doing his thing, man. The man, I love the comparison that he always looks like he's playing in flip flops, man. I think that's one of the funniest things that I've seen on the internet regarding his game. But Zoo, I got to shout it out, man, because this was the theme of the weekend of our conversations in New York was Bam Adebayo in the paint, man. A lot of people, he's a great player. And I think, especially in the bubble, we saw unbelievable play from him, especially on the defensive side. And even kind of, the couple years subsequent to that, he was pretty much putting up 20 and not 20 relatively consistently. Now he just can't hit anything in the paint, man. Maybe it was just how they were playing him. If it was Rob Williams affecting him. It was just missing bunnies, like left and right. And then he just pull up from jump shots. And you're like, that's a little bit of his game. But I don't know. He's tough to watch. So they needed Caleb Martin, man, in this series. And he showed up bigger than any other player I think I've ever watched in the playoffs, to be honest. I'd argue that it was almost and he was obviously a better player, but Jason Terry for the 2011 Mavs, man, Caleb Martin was giving me those type of vibes with some of the shots he was hitting. But the schematics that Spoelstra was allowing his team, they were getting out and running, getting open shots compared to the Celtics just taking all these contested threes. And we need to talk about that, man, because the last 2 games they shot a combined maybe 18 to 20% total as a team from 3. That's unacceptable. And something that you just have to realize when you're in the game, like, look what Derek White was doing in Game 7. He was finally he was a great 3-point shooter all series for them. But he knew they weren't getting the easy bucket, so he started taking it upon himself to drive in the lane, get those and ones, even though they might have been some touchy calls there from Tony Brothers. But that was going to be the way that they had to come back. He brought him within 6 at one point, and then they just couldn't get stops. Obviously, Tatum's ankle was, bothering him. You could tell pretty much throughout the entire game. And once again, Zoo, Jaylen Brown, man, as many turnovers as field goals made in Game 7. I was a defender of him in the playoffs, mainly because of last year. He just had it was poor decision making by that entire team. I'd say the only 2 guys that played well were Derek White and Rob Williams at certain points. He had some big offensive rebounds to keep some plays alive. Once again, you can't play him that many minutes when the Heat are playing small ball and their tallest guy is 6'9". So I don't know, man. I'm happy. I had the Heat. Of course, I'm going to be riding that bandwagon.
Yeah.
I think we can agree that, and I'm sure we'll get into it shortly, but the Nuggets are very much favored against either one of those 2 teams that were going to be coming out of the East. The Celtics, I think at the beginning of the season, if you would have said, hey, this was the finals matchup, we probably would have been like, all right, the Celtics are one of the most talented teams in the league. But Charles Barkley said postgame, man, you can only rely on talent so much. He had some very colorful comments for the Boston Celtics. Let's just put it that way. But he's right. I mean, he was right. This team is one of the most stacked teams, especially in their role playing. I mean, every one of their role players can give you 15. Zoo and I were talking, when you're betting on, the Celtics, it's really hard to pick who's going to score 15 plus points in a game because it could be Smart. It could be Derek White. If Brogdon's healthy, he could give you 15. Al Horford, if he's hitting his threes, which, my God, he disappeared. Grant Williams had some good moments too in this series. But what it came down to was anytime the Celtics were in a pressured situation, they either lost the game or they almost blew it. Those first 3 games, those 2 at home were very pressured. oriented, and they lost them both, game 1 and 2. Game 3, you needed to win that game really to keep yourself in. Obviously, they ended up forcing 7, but you'd assume a 2-1 is way better than 3-0, and they lost that one. And then they just had nothing to lose in games 4 and 5, and those were relatively easy wins. And then they almost blow game 6. Mm-hmm. So it's just maybe the pressure is too much for this team. But man, I don't want to go back to the whole blowing up conversation that we had last week, but some of those role guys, man, I think we got to reconsider, at least maybe schematically, how they need to approach this team.
Brogdon, I was kind of a little disappointed in how he played last night too.
Yeah,
I think
coming off injury
before the season, he's come off injury, and I was thinking, the whole conversation around Boston has always been like, what are you going to do, like at the point guard position? Brogdon to me kind of just seems like the same type of guy they've had in that position, whether it was Schroeder, whether it was Kyrie, Terry Rozier. It's just a guy who's score type first point guard. And Derek White's kind of in that same mold, but to Derek White's credit, he attacked. Like, Bam Adebayo, we've seen his struggle. Like, we've seen him be up and down. So Derek White was just like, I'm gonna get into the lane. I don't think any of these guys can take me or hold me off the bounce. I'm just gonna try to create, contact, something. Like you said, a couple of those calls were iffy, but I do think just him forcing the issue, it kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt. But I do think with Jaylen Brown, part of his issue was Tatum when he got hurt. I just think he thought, okay, now it's my time to be a hero. And he tried to be a hero that just didn't work.
Yeah.
And I think his 23 shots was just him pressing because he saw Tatum didn't have it. And, I want to give Miami credit. Tatum stayed out there and played. And even though he was a little compromised, they got him in a couple of travels. And I wrote this down. Like, what's even insane about Jaylen Brown, like, all his turnovers, like, I still think for the series, Tatum had like one more. I think he had 26 turnovers for the series, and Tatum and Brown had 25, which is
that's actually crazy.
As your wing players, you cannot have your two best wings just giving the ball away. Like, you either got to be like, for instance, last night, not only was they giving the ball away, like they wasn't making threes, and it's kind of funny, like not funny, but I guess you just looking back on it. Boston, and you can probably say this about every team in the NBA, but like when a team is hitting threes, they're just unbeatable, and that's what the game is now. Yep. Like even if Boston would have had all those turnovers they had last night, if they make half of those threes, like this is a competitive game in the fourth quarter, and that's just kind of what it is now. And with Jaylen Brown, he still has trouble like dribbling in traffic. It's not so much because he can dribble to get into his move, but when he's like with two guys around him, he just always seems to lose the ball. And I don't know if that's just because I doubt it's like he's going to start seems like I'm not working on my dribbling. I don't think that's what it is. I just think that's just not his strong suit. Like you almost wonder if he just becomes a guy that's like a one dribble pull up or like a downhill, off of action, getting it and going towards the rim. Because just like if it's any type of scenario where he's a shot creator, which is another reason why some guys like Kyrie, which, he comes with a lot of trouble. Well, one thing he just knows how to do is get his own shot, and that's because his handle's so elite. Like, he's going to always get his own shot, even when he probably becomes less athletic, because if he just has the dribble, he's going to be able to get to his spots. But Caleb Martin, for sure. Gabe Vincent, even though, you saw I think it was game 6 he missed, or was it game 5? I'm not sure.
Game 5.
You saw his impact. Got to give a little bit of credit to Kyle Lowry. I will say one play that I think was a really big momentum shift was I think Boston had its like 8 or 9, and the crowd started getting into it, and there was a corner 3 at the Miami bench that he made that was kind of like a little bit of, I don't know if he was trying to get a screen or if he was just trying to make a play.
Tough shot.
He made that big, it was a big shot at that moment. I think pushed it back to 11 or 12, and I was just like, Kyle Lowry is not the guy you're going to depend on as like the point guard, and we all know he's overpaid. But man, it's just those type of plays. He'll make 2 threes a game where it's like, oh, we're still here.
We were at a bar right when that shot hit. I just looked right over at Zoo. I said, "Look, man, you were just talking shit. He always hits a shot right after you start talking shit, man." And he just laughed.
He's good at that. He's good at that. Yeah. Like he's not. No starter, like Gabe Vincent should be starting. Like, no, but Kyle Lowry, this portion of his career, we're gonna talk about the finals, but he's gonna be vital. Like, he's gonna make a couple plays where it's just like, wait, Kyle Lowry's got 12 points. Like, what the hell? Like, where'd that 12 come from?
Okay, we gotta chill with the Kyle Lowry talks, man. The brother averaged 6 points on 39% shooting, man. Let's chill out the Kyle Lowry talks.
No, we're
man.
just talking about the game 7. That was
just
big
the game
shot.
7.
Yeah.
He actually shot 50% for once.
Not the
man.
series.
Good for Kyle. Yeah, good for Kyle. Because in the series, he was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like I would say the series
a lot of turnovers
against like the New York Knicks, he was objectively okay. He was like a nice like 6-man guy. He was like playing his role, and he was pretty productive. But this was a really bad series. Like Gabe Vincent's scoring ability, that guy could shoot it. Like that guy has the greenest light I've ever seen at the point guard position. Like the dude does not get any assists. Like the guy, every time he gets the ball, if he gets like a decent look, not an open look, if he gets like a decent look, he's shooting it. He's shooting it. I think that was one of the reasons that Mr. Spoelstra benched him in Game 7. Like he wanted Kyle Lowry in because more of a pass first guy to settle down the offense. So that's why Mr. Vincent got benched. But yeah, but man, Kyle Lowry.
Listen, it was just the Game 7. And I also think too, this may be overstated, but I also think too, part of with the Game 6 being so dramatic and just crazy for the team itself with Miami, I think having a veteran leader in there, like you already got Butler, but you have Kyle Lowry in there to just, they got Spoelstra who's been tested, but he's coached LeBron and Dwayne, so those guys are nothing to him. But he, having Kyle Lowry in the locker room, bro, like I think that matters a lot. And I won't say he's like Andre Iguodala because Kyle Lowry is actually playing and having some type of success. But I think that presence in the locker room does help a guy like Gabe Vincent, who was a G League guy, and Caleb Martin has Jimmy Butler to look at. So
Bam needs to talk to Udonis about his paint game, man. That's all I'll say.
Well, you know what I think Bam's thing is? I think Udonis with Bam, I think Udonis probably just looks at Bam. Like, Udonis comes off as a guy. Yeah, he's just like, I don't even know.
Like, what's wrong with this?
I don't think he has that. Like, Udonis doesn't seem like a guy. He'll mentor you, but if you don't have the basic skill set that he's looking for, I don't think he's even going to take the time to do it. Like, that's just
waste of his time.
I feel like
he is, man, because if you look at his physical tools, man, he's like 6'9", 250, extremely athletic, got all the physical tools, stretch 4, stretch 5 type of dude, got like a smooth looking jump shot. But the brother in the paint is just atrocious. Like I saw a couple possessions with Derek White on him. Derek White, a point guard, and they're just missing buddies. I'm like, yo, man. And they're like bad misses, man. Like he's just not good in the paint. I remember this is before Game 7. His points possession in the post, man, 0.2 points, man. That dude is a black hole. If he gets a possession in the post, that's a W, man. That's an automatic W. He's not productive in the post. Like when they have him in the post, they want him to be as a pass first guy, try to get a cutter. So Tucker Robinson had a nice cut, looking for an open shooters. But if you have Bam Adebayo, if I'm the game plan, if I'm the other team, I'm trying to force this dude to go one-on-one in the post and try to make him drop 30 on us. Because his ability, his best ability on offense is passing. It is not scoring the basketball. It's not shooting the basketball.
Rebounding
like exactly. So like get the nitty gritty work. Like he ain't that number 2, like stereotypical number 2 option on offense. He's a complimentary guy. Like he gets his rebounds, plays elite defense, but offensively, man, he has struggled tremendously in the playoffs. And this is not the first time. Like we've seen this multiple times in previous playoff appearances.
Last year.
Last year. He sometimes just doesn't have like confidence in his jump shot. Like his jump shot is very like sometimes they leave him wide open for a mid-range. Like if you're wide open for a mid-range, take that with confidence. But sometimes he just looks at it like, man, I'm so wide open. You get a little nervous, man. Like you try to drive against like a Rob Woods or something and bricks it. So like Bam Adebayo, you got to figure out that offensive end because you're going to need more production against a higher against like a higher powered offense that's upcoming in the future. Like you need to be able to put up some buckets because the guy like you ain't gonna be playing against Al Horford or Rob Williams in your next matchup, man. You're playing against a guy that might be going out one of the all-time setters. So Bam Adebayo, who is 0-6 against Jokic in his career, he's never beat him. Jokic is gonna eat his lunch money, so he's got to really, really step up if the Miami Heat ever got a chance because he was a weak link on offense. Like
and they shouldn't
weakly.
And I don't think the zone is going to be very effective if they even want to try to pull that with Dallas because Jokic will eat that up in a heartbeat. Like, I don't even think Boston had the capability. Like, a Rob Williams cannot do what Jokic does. So, I think if they try to pull that 2-3 zone, I think the 2-3 zone, if they try it against Denver, will be a very quick, okay, let's try this and let's get out of it because I don't think it's going to be super successful. But it's like with Bam, he's going to have to take that challenge of trying to battle Jokic, which we can talk about now.
Well, I was just going to say real quick because you made the point about the zone, Sean. You know what's actually really disrespectful that Spoelstra put that out there? Because how do you beat a zone? you shoot your way out of it. And he had zero confidence in the Celtics' ability to shoot their way out of that zone. That he was
Yeah,
like,
man.
I'm daring you to beat us this way, and we will just go down and we're going to get our mid range. We're going to get our layups. We'll hit. I mean, to be fair, they hit over 50% of their threes as a team.
They
in
shot
Game 7.
lights out.
They shot lights out. But it's because they were getting such good penetration in the paint, and you have to respect their mid range, that there's always going to end up being one guy open. And besides Bam, everybody on that floor can shoot on the Miami Heat with confidence.
Yep.
You know what I think too? That also signified about you saying like, I want to see if you guys can beat us at shooting. I think he probably saw a little bit of chokeness in the Boston Celtics. He probably thought like they're not going to have the confidence to make these shots. Yeah. So I think now some people will bring up Tatum's injury, but I don't want to use that as an excuse. Like I do think he looked at Boston like they don't play well at home. All the pressure weirdly shifted to them because even though they're Miami get with this huge lead, like it's still I think Miami's still telling themselves like, listen, we're the play-in team. Like these guys are the number 2. Like like what they're supposed to be already chilling like Jokic and them are like getting ready for the NBA Finals, and they're having to battle us in a Game 7. Like we've seen this kind of script before. We're gonna talk about it later with Boston, but I'll save that. But looking forward to the NBA Finals. Only thing I'm going to be interested in seeing is one, we just talked about it now, Bam's matchup with Jokic. That is going to be critical. If Bam could just maybe affect him a little bit, that gives him a fighting chance. I know Jimmy's going to do what he's going to do, but the thing that concerns me about that is the bodies that Denver can throw at him. Like you could probably put a KCP on him. You could probably put an Aaron Gordon. You're going to be able to like throw bodies at Jimmy, which you probably kind of thought you could do with the Boston Celtics, but these guys, KCP is more of a specialist with defense, and Aaron Gordon is a bigger athlete just in terms of his, wingspan and things like that. So that's going to be an interesting caveat to the series because I do think Jamal's going to do what he does, and I think Jokic is going to do what he does, but I don't know, man. I just don't feel comfortable now. Especially seeing what we see in the playoffs, you'd be like, yeah, Denver's got this in 5 or 6. I just don't feel comfortable saying that because the same thing we said about the Heat, same thing we said about the Bucks, even though Giannis was compromised for a couple of those games. But still, it's like, I don't think would be smart to just be like, yeah. I think Denver's just going to roll past because what I think could happen, I think in this first game, which I think will be very critical to this series, is I think Miami's only chance is if they try to get this first game, and I think they have a good chance because they've been playing. People talk about the rest and stuff, but I do think there's a thing with rhythm. And if there's a chance that, Denver comes out sloppy because it's the first game and they haven't played in a week, even though if Miami would have swept, it would have been the same type of rest. But Denver does have the altitude, so Miami might have to deal with that. But I just think if Miami has a rhythm and they're just able to steal that game 1, I think it makes it very interesting because I do think the momentum and the, whole aspect of team just with Miami, like they're very similar to Denver in terms of just their way they play through a team. Now, they don't have the talent, but I do think guys like Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson starting to show up a little bit. And then the X factor of Tyler Hero, like, that may be a negative or a positive, but if he does truly come back in game 3, if Miami can get a split and then you got Tyler Hero coming back for that home game, who knows? But I really don't know who's going to win this series. Logic says Denver, but it's like, man, like we looked at the Boston series and who was picking the Heat, bro? We were excited about Jimmy, but it was like nobody was like, okay, Boston's going to get done with them in 5 or 6. So it was like, a team that keeps proving everybody wrong. Why is it such a slam dunk that I know they got Jokic, which is we know he's an X factor, but it's just like, still, it's just like, what if Bam actually takes an assignment? It's like, okay, I'm gonna not stop Jokic, but bother him. What if he bothers him? Then it's like, because then the pressure's all on Denver. Like, there's no pressure on Miami, so that's another factor too. So what if Miami splits? Then it's like,
I mean, they have to.
I just don't want to doubt Jimmy. Like, Jimmy has proven me wrong this entire playoffs. I just hard to go against Jimmy, man. I don't know, man.
Okay, no. Okay. Let's first talk about Bam slowing down Mr. Jokic. Mr. Jokic played against probably his toughest matchup in your boy Anthony Davis, who's probably, I would say, in the entire NBA, he's probably one of the 2 defenders that you imagine would slow down a guy like Nikola Jokic.
He's better than Bam peak. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
6'11",
defensively.
bigger length, and on offense, you can make him work a lot more on defense. And that matchup, Jokic averaged a 27, 15, and 12. So Bam Adebayo has zero chance. He has zero chance. Jokic, this brother might average a 30-point.
Spoelstra's also a better coach, so maybe he puts him in better positions. I don't know.
That is true. That is true. But I'm looking at the bigs for Miami. They're a very small team.
Yeah, that's it.
And based on the number of chess pieces this dude got, he doesn't got any pieces to match up against a Jokic, man. Jokic is a queen out there just whooping ass, man. Ain't got a little pause like Bam Adebayo trying to guard him. Ain't going to work, man. It ain't going to work. Like, I don't care how genius of a head coach Mr. Spoelstra is. He just doesn't got the pieces to deal with the guy. Unless because you try double team him, he's going to give it to the shooters. You got MPJ, KCP, Jamal Murray, the snipers out there. Maybe try to expose Aaron Gordon a little more. Like, you go one-on-one coverage, barbecue chicken, man. It's over. So, like, you can't do anything with Jokic. And, like, I already said, I think he's the best player in the world. And the way Jamal Murray playing as a second option, that dude looking like a top 20 player right now in the NBA right now. So you got a complimentary star like this. I already said that starting lineup, I remember on paper in the regular season, before the playoffs started, I'm like, that's a perfect starting lineup. Everybody plays their role to a T. It's like every piece meshes perfectly. Like that's the thing you guys talk about the Celtics. Their piece like Tatum and Brown, they don't mesh perfectly because they have overlapping skill sets. They have similar weaknesses, same position, turnover prone, not great passers. Every piece on the Nuggets fit perfectly. And unless like a significant injury happens, like the team's going to be rolling on offense. And you're playing against a Miami Heat team, even though they shot the lights out in the playoffs so far. You're playing against the best offensive team they played in the playoffs. Like you ain't going to beat the Nuggets dropping 95 or 100 points, man. That ain't happening. This Nuggets team is going to be able to execute on offense. Defensively, they're not the best, but they're average. So like Jimmy Butler, man, good luck, man. You're going to be needing 30 pieces and 40 pieces because that's what it takes to get it done against this Nuggets offense. Because I think this Nuggets offense is going to be
how Butler played against the Lakers in the bubble is what he's going to have to do.
Yeah, that's what it's going to take.
Pretty much.
Like he's going to need it. Like if Butler could drop 20, no, you're just going to lose the game. You're going to lose the game. Like
unless Seamart's dropping 30.
Yeah, I love guys like Seamart and Duncan Robinson, man. But those guys are not going to be able to drop 30 points. And you got two guys in Jokic and Jamal Murray. They can drop 30 pieces easily, man. Might be able to like guys like Jamal Murray does that in a half, man. So you got to match the explosiveness on offense. And I just think Jokic right now, man, they're well rested. They're well rested. The home court advantage. They have the best home court advantage in the NBA with an actual home court advantage outside of your pants. It's your freaking altitude up there, man. They're used to playing that. Jimmy Butler, they're tied right now after a grueling, not just physically, mentally. Like that was a grueling physical series and mental series with obviously don't want to be the first team in NBA history to blow a 3-0 lead and coming back and winning that game, even though it was a blowout game. They are physically tired and mentally tired. While Jokic at home probably playing with his horse right now. Like just enjoying his life with his family. Like legit, that's probably what he's doing right now. Yeah. That's probably what he's doing right now. So they are fully rested. Mentally, they're ready. And I feel like this on paper, they're the better team. But man, Jimmy Butler, man, it's gonna take you dropping 40 points. Gabe, like what Devin Booker was doing on the Phoenix Suns, it's gonna take those all-time performances to beat this Nuggets team. Like LeBron James last game in the game-clinching game, he dropped 49-8. He was on one, and they were still able to close it out. So, like, you're gonna need one guy on your team to drop 40 points. Who on that team could drop 40 points outside of Jimmy? Nobody. No. They don't have a second dude with them.
Gabe Vincent would have to hit like 9 threes.
Yeah. Gabe Vincent hits a bunch of threes. Like I love Seamar and Duncan Robinson and Kevin Love and all these guys. Like they're just not gonna. They don't have the capability. Their ceiling of dropping that many points. It's not there. It's only Jimmy Butler. So it's gonna be grit and grind. Slow down the pace. Lower the possessions. Jimmy Butler finding 3-point shooters, man, and Jimmy Butler getting buckets at an extremely high level, shooting 50+% shooting. That's the key to winning, and I don't see it getting done. So I got the Nuggets in 5.
5? Okay, that's
games.
fair. I mean, I'd say that's – I don't think they'll sweep them. I think the Heat will at least steal 1. I have Denver in 6. I'll just preface everything with that.
That's what I got.
But, I think it's going to come down to – on the Heat side, Spoelstra's going to have to be on top of his game. And not saying that he hasn't been, because he's arguably the secondary, maybe tertiary reason behind Seamart and Jimmy of why they're where they are right now. But what I'm looking for in this series is, the only thing I think you can knock on the Nuggets is if the Heat draw out this series, we've seen Jokic deal with fatigue. So, the rest that he's had in between, the conference finals and the finals will be big. But, as you get later in the season, man, some of these big men end up getting very exhausted. And he's asked to do quite literally everything for this team.
Everything.
So the thing about the Nuggets is they don't use many bench guys, right? They got Bruce Brown off the bench.
They have 2 rotation guys and Chris Brown, 5 to 10 minutes at max. So
exactly,
7-man rotation pretty much.
And then Bruce Brown, who's pivotal to their team as their 6th man. He needs to have a big series. They need MPJ to consistently be hitting his threes. And they need Aaron Gordon to be a pest on defense against Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin. And then if Tyler Hero comes back, that's another big thing. I think that, and Sean, you might have mentioned this last week when we were kind of starting to think, well, assuming that it was going to be a sweep, it obviously went 7, which, to be honest, I know the schedule was already set, but I feel like it also helped with Tyler Hero, with his injury.
Oh,
too,
yeah,
knowing that he has more time, right? Still traveling with the team. He's in the locker room. That's also a good thing. He's seeing and being around the guys that have brought this team. He's not just at home dealing with his injury, right? So they are the deeper team. Now, they're not the more talented team, but they do have more bodies that they can throw out at Denver. So, we've seen guys come in. Highsmith, what was it? Game 5 when Vincent went out, right? He earned minutes, man. The guy came in, even though they got blown out, he dropped like 19 points in that game. He hit some big shots, just to get his own game going and showed that he was worthy. Was it him that pickpocketed Brown last night or Tatum?
That was Tatum, yeah.
Yeah, it was on Tatum,
him. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, so if you can just be able to throw that guy out there for 7-8 minutes, maybe make Bruce Brown's life a living hell when he comes off the bench, Spoelstra's going to have to be playing chess in this series if they want even a slim chance. They need Caleb Martin to also be dropping at least 23 a game, I think, around that point. I don't expect him to hold that 25, 26, but if he can, at least stay above 20 a game. They need Duncan to be hitting his threes. No more taking one dribble, man. Just do it in rhythm.
Just shoot Duncan. The ball, bro.
Just shoot the ball. And Bam Adebayo. Just hit half your fucking shots in the damn paint, man. That's all I got to say. Sorry for the Charles Barkley colorful language, man, but my God. It was painful. And you ended up assuming when he was starting to take those 5 to 10 foot floaters, which he loves to do, turn around, kind of a fake baby hook shot. I started assuming that he was just going to be missing every single one of them. So I don't know, maybe just go and practice.
His form's not bad either. So I don't
know. No, it's not. Maybe it's his touch. He likes to use glass a little bit too much, I think, and then he gets and then he loses his touch. I don't know. But yeah, man, I think the home court advantage is huge. We also can't forget Mike Malone is a hell of a good coach as well. He has brought this team over the last 8 seasons from very middling in the West to starting to become the powerhouse in the West with a lot of the changing of the guard with some of these players getting older and, Kevin Durant, kind of moving back and forth between conferences. They kind of have their own issues in Phoenix. Lakers obviously getting a bit older, and the Nuggets have kind of risen to the occasion. So they need to be pests against Jamal Murray because it is possible for him to have bad games. He can get a little reliant on the 3. Jokic, I'm going to allow him to get his. What I'm going to make hard for him is his ability to be the facilitator. I think if you can take out his facilitation, make him be the scorer. But don't let him average
1-on-1 coverage, man. No helping. Just try to make him go in the post and bang it out and drop 40
Exactly. Drop 40 because that's exactly what they did to the Lakers, the Nuggets. They said, LeBron, go get your 40. We're going to force Anthony Davis out of this game, and we're fine with you getting a damn near triple-double at 40 points, and we're going to make Austin Reeves and Rui beat us, right? And that's what they need to do. They need to make MPJ, Aaron Gordon, and Bruce Brown beat them. And if they do, hats off to them. But the Heat are playing with house money, man. The Heat are playing with house money, and they play because of that. They play loose, and that just allows Spoelstra to trust his team. The team knows that too, that they have the full trust of Spoelstra. Except maybe Gabe Vincent when they're almost about to blow a 3-0 lead. Then you get Kyle Lowry in there to calm everything down. So that's the thing, man. They got the equalizer, man. They got guys for every single thing on this Heat team, and like you said, Zoo. Denver probably meshes better overall on a positional basis, but you can bring any guy in on the Heat, and they can also be coming in and giving you a huge aspect, right? We haven't even mentioned Max Strus, who kind of had a rough series against the Celtics, man. So if he's back up to where we expect him to be, which is funny to say that because it's Max Strus, man. Like, are we expecting him to average 15 a game? But no, he needs to be hitting his threes. They need to be lights out, man. But I still got the Nuggets in 6, man. Either way,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
gonna be
with you.
happy. Jimmy or
I'm
Jokic, man. They both deserve a finals, man.
I'm at the 6 point. It's just like my head is definitely saying the Nuggets, but it's just Jimmy. Plus two, Miami does have a history of having the wing guy as go back into their history with Dwayne Wade and when he beat who did he beat in that finals?
Mavs
Was it
Dallas.
Dallas?
when
Dirk?
he averaged 35 a
Oh,
game.
yeah.
He did what Jimmy
I
needs
wonder
to
if
do.
Jimmy's gonna get like this if he just because that could be a thing of like Jimmy just driving and being aggressive and I do agree with your point about making Jokic more of a scorer, but it's like what if this gets to a series where the foul calls are how they were last night, especially on Boston's end, and it's like what if Jimmy just get to the bucket and get in every call? What if that happens? Like, what if that becomes a possibility where Jokic in the first 2 or 3 games, he's just in foul trouble because Jimmy just continues to like draw contact? Because as much as we all know Jokic is going to be able to do it on the offensive end, like defensively, like if Jimmy just continues to drive the ball, or if Bam gets any type of you know offensive awareness and just uses his athleticism to go off the bounce and maybe get into Jokic, like that's just something that Miami's going to have to do. They're going to have to make Jokic a scorer, and they're going to have to be aggressive because they are playing with house money. And I do think that carefree attitude is going to benefit them well. But it's the same thing I said about the Lakers series. They got to get the first 2 games. They got to get one. If they can get one, this is going to be an interesting series because I do think them
Absolutely.
going back to Miami. And Miami's weird and like you would have never thought, and we're about to go to Boston, like that Miami's home court felt more like a home court advantage than Boston. I felt like in Boston, the fans were trying to get there, but it just did not seem like that was a big home court advantage. And you saw how the Celtics played. They did not play well at home. So I do think Miami, once they all get in the building, because it does take them a while to get there, once they all get in the building, it's a pretty, with the whiteout and all that type of stuff, it's a pretty, decent home court advantage. So that's going to be an interesting thing too. But I do think they have to, they definitely got to get the first 2 games. Because if Denver goes up 2-0, it could definitely be 5. Definitely be 5. Because then we talk about house money. All of a sudden, Denver's playing with house money because now Jokic's going to be doing those little, over the head type shots.
Flip-flop
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Going crazy. Like, yeah, it's going to be a lot of horse shots going on and they're going to go in. So, yeah, I think Miami has to split. And I think game 1 will be their best shot because they'll still have the regular playing. But, belaboring the point, I know we've mentioned a couple of times in this pod about the relationship with Tatum and Brown and segue into the Boston Celtics, yet another disappointing game 7 at home. Last year they got to the finals and they were able to push it 6. I want to before we start getting into Boston's future, I want to give Missoula a little bit of credit. Like bringing that team back from 3-0, just being the head coach of the team who almost pulled off the incredible. That says a lot. I don't know what his future is going to be, but I do think that was pretty cool to see him rally the team and get them back. And he was, I was watching a couple of his post-game interviews. He was very gracious and just he seems like a pretty good guy, and I do think it's kind of unfair. He just got thrust into this whole situation. Like, I mean, I think he only maybe had 4 or 5 years of experience. So it was good to see him get the team to battle back. But same thing with the Lakers, like with Boston. You don't get kudos for, especially that franchise. You don't get kudos for, going game 7 in the conference finals.
Getting close.
I think a lot of it is you get to the finals, you play well in the finals, and you win the finals. There's no second place type of stuff. So, I guess I can kind of start what I think scenarios are in my head of what they should do. I've always been part of the Tatum, Brown, Smart, trio. One of them has to go. But if you want to look at it from a perspective of, let's just say you want to bring some of them back or bring them all back. I think Boston's biggest need is they need a true point guard, like a true guard who every guard now could score. So, I mean, that just comes with it. But a guard who is focused on getting the stars set up. Because even you could say in the first 3 games against Miami, a lot of those crunch time, especially the first 2 games, like a lot of those crunch time type of moments, they really need a guard to like bring it up the court and look off Brown and look off Tatum and like, look, we're not doing hero ball this possession. We're going to get into a set. We're going to get into a play. You're going to get a good shot. Tatum, I'm more than likely going to try to set you up into a mid-range or getting towards the basket because I still believe Tatum is best when he's going towards the basket and shooting mid-range. I hate when he does the through the legs, step back, three. Like, that's such an easy shot. And when he's hitting it, he's the best player in the world or the best player on the team. But when he's not hitting it, he's, an average star. And I think they need a point guard who truly embraces being a point guard who's going to set up. I was thinking about this today. Like, they can't afford him, but you know who would be the best player, like, right now in terms of, like, age and, like, ability to, like, make and play with stars would be
Chris
Austin
Paul?
Reeves.
I'm just kidding.
Well, Chris Paul's too old, but I'm saying young Chris
I know,
Paul,
I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
But I think Austin Reeves would be a perfect complement to Tatum and Brown because he, first off, was creating plays. Like, I go back to the Memphis series in that game 1. He's looking off Braun. He's on the court with AD. He's doing two-man game with Rui Hachimura and scoring, playmaking, setting up. I remember he had that crazy behind-the-back pass that he threw to Hachimura, and Hachimura drained the three. Like, I think he – and the Lakers have been talking about, like, because I've seen a couple of clips on, like, because Lakers are dominating coverage still, but it's just like I've seen a bunch of clips from saying, like, they want him to be the lead guard next year, like, to be the point, which you've seen it throughout the season. LeBron James, it's kind of like how Kyrie, but now Kyrie just got busy and he was more of a two guard. So LeBron was just throwing the ball and he would just, go dribble and try to get an and one. But, like, Austin Reeves can dribble and can lead an offense. And I think in this series, if Austin Reeves was playing with Tatum and Brown, I think he could have got them into way better sets. I think he could have got Tatum going downhill. I think with how we talk about Jaylen Brown can't seem to handle the ball in pressure situations. I think Reeves coming down with the ball and setting Brown up for, a corner three or getting him off action. Like, I think a player like that could benefit Boston well. But my overall point is if they don't want to break it up, which I still think they should, because I was also thinking too, like, okay, you get rid of Brown. You sign Brown to the max because he's going to get the max. You sign him to the max, you go get a Damian Lillard. That does not fix your problem. Damian Lillard's a shorter version of one of those guys you just traded away, Brown. So now you're going to tell me a 6'1", 6'2" aging point guard, which I know Dame plays point, but he's not. Dame is not Chris Paul.
Never been true.
So it's like, who's going to set up the offense? And Dame's clutch. He's not going to be scared of the moment, but it's like, who's going to set up the offense for them? So it's like you're looking at the landscape. If you want to be stubborn to keep those two together, you got to kind of see who you can get as a point guard. But then it's also tough because then it's like, say goodbye to Derek White. Say goodbye to Malcolm Brogdon. Say goodbye to possibly Marcus Smart if you want to bring in a quality point guard.
Yep.
So that's why the Jaylen Brown, and it's kind of hard too because I was a defender of Brown, but it's like it's kind of hard now. It's like, do you really want to give this guy the Supermax? Well, you have to, but it's like, is it a sign and trade possibility? Like, I know a lot of people don't want to break it up, but it's like, in Boston specifically, like, this isn't Minnesota. This isn't Indiana. This isn't Charlotte. This is Boston. It's championship or bust. So you can't be like people saying, well, they're getting to the conference finals every year. So freaking what? Same thing with the Lakers. It's about championships. Nobody cares even though the Lakers were the 8th seed, nobody cared that they got to the conference finals. Everybody, like, maybe people who are not fans of the Lakers are like, oh, that was a good season. But no, it ain't. Laker fans are pissed because they're not in the finals. Same thing with Boston. They have even though Boston had once 2008, but it's still the expectations of the franchise. And if you want to get the finals, you got to figure out some type of retooling. And I ran it for a little bit, but, whoever wants to go.
Maybe they just need to bring Doc back. That'll get them back to the finals.
Right. Actually, Doc won a championship, so that actually isn't a bad idea.
Yeah, but
it's a bad idea.
I'm going to echo that, Sean. I mean, I to be honest, there really isn't too much that they need to change. I look at more of the schematic sense of this team, in my opinion. Like, and I think part of that has to do with the players that they have available to use, right? Like, when Marcus Smart is assisting, they play well. Hell, there was a game where Derek White, I don't know if it was game 6 or if it was game 7. He had 6 assists. Now, that might have been when he only had 11 points, right? But you just, and that's the thing. The NBA nowadays does not have as many guys that are willing to sacrifice the scoring to give you 12 assists a game.
That's a fact.
There's no more Steve Nashes. There's no more Jason Kidds. There's no more vintage Chris Pauls. Actually, I call it the middle years of Chris Paul because he was a damn good scorer early in his career. It's all about the highlight reel, right? Or Rondo, another perfect example. He's arguably the reason why they won in 2008, why they were relevant through 2012, 2013. Hell, man, even when he was with the Bulls and Jimmy Butler, Rajon Rondo was the reason that the Bulls were relevant against the first-seeded Celtics, man, when the Bulls were an 8 seed with aging Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler. So you're exactly right. They need a point guard like that. It's few and far between, though, and if you want one of those, they're rather coveted, especially on a team with your two stars being wing players. These guys, this team is way too talented. They have two. What Tatum's first team was Brown's second team.
Yep.
You're telling me that a team with two all NBA first or second team players is not making the finals against an 8th seed with one true consistent all-star? That's ridiculous. So I agree with you, Sean, that their expectation should be that they're at least in the finals in a game 6 or 7 in that finals, hopefully winning it. But I still, if they're doing that consistently and they're making the finals every year, which they have been right around there a ton, especially since the bubble. But man, I mean, you're right. They'd have to blow up the trio of guards, right? Brogdon, Smart, and Derek White. They'd have to probably only be able to keep one of them. My mind tells me that they would probably stick with Marcus just because of his ties to the organization. But at the same time, Derek White stepped up to probably be the best of the three.
That's about to say.
Right? So, and they did trade for him specifically from the Spurs, right? I forgot that he played for the Spurs because I didn't even know who Derek White was. And then he comes to Boston and now, boom, look where he's at. So
that was the early year of tanking, the year before the Wembanyama season. So they were ready for tanking.
Hey, don't get Sean going. Don't get Sean going on the Spurs again, man. Don't get Sean going. But besides the point, I just don't see, and I do agree, the Reeves is kind of an interesting pick. I do think he does prefer to score as well. And I think he does take the back seat more so on the Lakers because it's LeBron, and who wouldn't be a little nervous to not pass LeBron the ball, right? So would he have the same type of respect for Tatum and Brown after seeing them combine in this type of game?
After game 7, maybe not.
12 for 33 or something like that they shot together. Yeah. I mean, so in my opinion, it's probably best if they break the duo up and bring in, maybe do a sign and trade. Lillard, I agree, that's a little aggressive and not filling the hole that you really need to be filled at this point. But at least consider something else, man.
Explore.
It might be dumb, but if you can get, and I know he might be asking for money, and Zoo's probably going to laugh at this, but if you get James Harden on that team to play true point guard, that's not a horrible, if you could somehow package him
healthy,
not getting rid of Jalen and Jason.
That guy ain't happening. He wants $200 million.
Exactly, and they can't pay it.
Yeah, he's not going to sacrifice. But
does he have that leverage? Does he have that leverage at this point?
Oh, he's gonna get something, but if it ain't the full max, he's gonna get close to the max.
Stupid to do it, but
Houston's got the money to spend though.
Yeah.
But but that's what I'm saying. I was just looking through a list of potential true point guards that are down to assist, and we have seen Harden become a bit more of a true point guard the past 2 years or so. That's kind of a guy that you might need as long as he's willing to not jack up threes, because that's the last thing this team needs. But he is a damn good passer and can play a really good true point guard role if that's what the team needs. So I don't know.
Totally agree. The true point guard role, they have been looking for this player for a long, long time. There's a lot of point forwards out there. Yeah, they don't have them. They have true wing guys, bona fide scorers. That's what they like to do. And they're two-way players, two-way wings, in like the most complimentary sense. But for me, man, the true point guard, man, there's not many of those in the league anymore. And a lot of them are really, really old. Like the one I think would perfectly with this team, this dude has been overpaid pretty much his entire career. Overpaid a lot. This guy has made too much money for a guy that's made one all-star team, man. But a guy like Mike Conley. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mike Conley, this dude is poised. He hits open threes. Even though his assist numbers are not crazy high, he's the definition of a true point. He gets the guys the ball to the right spots on the offense, man. He's never too quick. And in the playoffs, he shows up in the playoffs, man. He got a mean floater game. His three-point shot is the complementary of great wing players, man. Mike Conley, this guy's up there in age. But if you get a year or two out of Mike Conley, if you're trying to win now, Mike Conley is a guy that you got to have a little look to, man. Because Mike Conley, I think a guy like that fits perfectly with the dynamic wings of Tatum and Brown and having guys settle down the team. Because Mike Conley has a lot of playoff experience, man. And the way he can maintain an offense, man, Like the assist numbers don't go crazy, man, but someone like that would fit perfectly. And like I on the younger side, like a Tyus Jones, but with the John Morant situation, he ain't getting traded anytime soon.
Yeah.
So that guy's probably gonna be close to untouchable with Ja acting a fool off the court. So a guy like Mike Conley, man, maybe you could do like a trade for him, man. Maybe like a Malcolm Brogdon and something else. Because Malcolm Brogdon right now is the sixth man scoring guy. Give me a true point guard in there, like a Conley, man, and try to win now with that. Because I feel like complementary skill set. That's a complementary skill set that he's not the most talented player, but he fits what they need. So someone like that is the guy I'll be looking for if I'm the Boston Celtics instead of completely blowing it up.
Would you trade Marcus Smart? Would you package Marcus Smart for something
that's
like that?
tough. That's tough. I would like multiple handlers. I would try to trade one of my bench guys. And you know me and picks, man. Fuck them picks, man. If I'm trying to win a championship, man. Boston Celtics win 50 plus games every year, man. I'm good with trading my draft picks. So
Marcus Smart though might become a little less relevant if this whole flopping rule thing comes into effect, because he does that a lot.
So much, man. That Bam spin move last night.
Like his body is beat up partly because he's flopping a lot. And I'm not saying he's the only one that flops because everybody flops, but he does it a lot to where he's hitting the ground a lot. Like some guys just flop and don't hit the ground. He's always on the ground. So I think he might become a little bit less effective. And I just always had brought up just him out of that trio. They need to break that up. And part of the reason why I threw Smart in there, because you don't want to break up Tatum and Brown. So as a casualty, you just have Marcus Smart as a guy that he's just gonna, end up trading away. But it's interesting too, bro, because I also was how last week we talked about Coach Missoula and like how he was in over his head, and I still think he struggled throughout this series. But I mean, this is their third head coach. So it's like this is why the rumors of like should they break up is kind of like gaining steam, because it's like you had Brad Stevens, who everybody was like, okay, this is one of the next great young head coaches. Then he's like, I can't deal with these guys. Let me go be in the freaking front office. Then you had Ime Udoka, which was his situation is his situation, but I mean, just full disclosure, I don't know if I'm Boston, looking at how this series played out, even though we were went away from being back in the NBA Finals. I don't know if I would have been really fighting not to fire Udoka. Like I know people
100%.
cheat and do stuff,
In
but
hindsight,
like seeing how I think they were very arrogant on like, dude, we went to the finals last year. We have Tatum and Brown. Missoula will get the job done. And you saw talent didn't overachieve the team and the head coach and their exposure. So it's like losing Udoka like was a huge thing. So now you have Missoula, and he fought back and got it back to Game 7. But it's like, man. So you're telling me, okay, let's get rid of Missoula. Well, who are you gonna go get? And this is now their fourth head coach. Like I ain't trying to hear that. Like at some point, the two main guys need to be held accountable. That's why there's this tension of, okay, if we may go to new head coach route, that's something we may consider. But at the same time, it's like I was saying last part, bro, y'all went to Game 7 with Bron in 2018, and now we're back at the same point. Like I know it's, and I think my mindset on this would be entirely different if this was Minnesota. But this is Boston, bro. Like Boston fans don't look at this crap as like, yeah, we're cool with just having guys that's going to get there. Because I said it last part too. Like, dude, Giannis was hurt. This was the year to get to the finals and win. Mm-hmm. So now you're telling me, oh, we're just going to run it back, and now you got to go through Giannis. You got, all these up, like, who could be a surprise next year? Like, look at Orlando with all the talent they got. Look at Paolo in year 2. What if Paolo just goes nuts and start averaging like 28? Now, if you're Boston, you're a number 2 seed, and you're going against a 7-seed Orlando team that's got Paolo Banchero going crazy. Like it's you got Detroit with all their young guys. Like, there's teams in the East that are building. Look at the Cavs. You don't think they're pissed off that they got? Yeah, like that's another thing. They got a lot of draft capital. They could trade for another star. Like, you looking at the Cavs, they're pissed off that they got punked by the Knicks. Like, you don't think Donovan Mitchell's going to come back for blood? Like, it's just a lot of stuff where with Boston, like, I know everybody likes to play the age thing with Tatum and Brown, like they're young guys, but bro, you get old in this league quick. And if you don't win a championship, a lot of this stuff gets quick. Like we could maybe be 2 years from like, oh shoot, remember Tatum and Brown? Like they were like always going to the conference finals. Now they're losing in the semis. Now they're losing in the first round to an upstart Cavs team or an upstart Orlando team. Like that could happen quick. That's why I think it's a lot of urgency of if you're gonna, because they're gonna have to pay Jaylen Brown. Like you got to be creative and at least just explore what you want to do. Like you can't just be stubborn, be like, no, we're just bringing them back. No, because if you do that, you could be disappointed. And plus, too, it's like, what are your options? Because it's like I saw Bradley Beal. No, that doesn't help the problem. Damian Lillard, I love Damian Lillard. But Damian Lillard, I don't know what now maybe if the games are close, Damian Lillard could bring him home, but it's like he's not a set-up point guard to where he's gonna get Tatum averaging 30. So I just don't know what the options are out there. But it is nice to have that piece. I do agree. You sign Brown. I don't care if he's you sign Brown and figure it out later. You do not be like, well, I don't want to pay you that, bro. No, pay him the max, and then we'll figure it out. Because Tatum's coming up the next year, the Supermax, and then Tatum's coming up the next year, and then you're figuring out. Because you also think too, if you're telling me the Supermax of Tatum and Brown is around $600 million, that is going to be hard to stomach.
Just think about it.
If you're not making the finals.
So you're going to have 2 contracts, man, combined for over $110 million. Cap space is projected around 130, 140. So you can do the math, man. That's a lot of percentage of the cap space, and you're going to be having a bunch of role players making less than $8-9 million.
Yeah, vet minimum guy. What would the third player? What would the third? Would it be a mid-level? I guess would be the third guy.
Yeah, it'd be a mid-level, like an Al Horford type, man. Just someone.
And that's another thing. Al Horford probably needs to. He probably needs to
hang it up
too. Yeah. Rob Williams is kind of got his space on there, and then let him play a little bit more. But it's I don't know what you could do after Rob Williams, and because then it's we're talking about Marcus Smart. I probably after this series, you're looking at what about Derek
cap
White?
Space? And with the new CBA rules, if you're over the cap, there is significant ramifications of being a tax-paying team that prevents you from making trades with your draft picks. There's a lot of restrictions. They're trying to make it a hard cap.
Thanks to the Warriors.
Pretty much. Exactly. They didn't want because the Warriors and the Clippers abused that luxury tax like no other teams in NBA history. So they hit them back with this, and now you're going to be losing the ability to make transactions in the future. So the way GMs have to build their team now, the whole thing with the super team 3 stars, that's going to be close to impossible.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's what they wanted.
Because if you give 3 guys maxes, you're going to have $10 million left to spend on your guys. Yeah, exactly. You're going to be
Miami.
Yeah, they're going to be paying those G League guys soon, though.
Yeah, exactly.
They're getting paid. So, that ain't going to be happening right now. So, teams might pivot with the one big star and some complimentary guys that are true number 2 options. So, it's really, really interesting seeing how this new CBA is going to affect roster construction because there has been some chains that they're doing right now. Luxury tax, man, it's going to be killing teams in the future.
The offseason started today. And they're already busy thinking through all this, man. And that's going to be a brutal
Brad Stevens is on the phone.
Get to work, boy. You don't want to coach. You're working extra overtime, man.
Back to coaching hours.
No, he is. I think he's got a lot of tough decisions because you got to think about the Missoula piece and also the Brown piece. Boston's going to be a very, very, very busy place this summer. So we're definitely going to be tuning into that and the NBA Finals, which starts, I think, Thursday, right?
Yeah,
Thursday. I think it starts Thursday. So, like I said, it's breaks a little bit more, a little bit more drawn out now with the game. So we'll be able to cover, I think it'll be through game 2, I think, before the next pod. I think it'll come on, or game 3. I'm not sure. I think it'll be just 2 games that are played. So, like I said, this pod's only 1 day a week, guys. So we really can't give you the up-to-date analysis like a ESPN. But I will say, if you want to watch any of our content, make sure you're on bullheaded_pod. On Instagram, make sure you're on TikTok, bullheaded864, Quantrill Knows on YouTube. That's where I put most of our socials, audio platform, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you vote on the polls on there, and make sure you also give us a 5-star review. And for me, Zoo, and P. Bush, we are out.